Yeah, it happens all the time. And you go, well, man, if you just, somebody says, well, you just need to start thinking straight. You need to start having positive thoughts. Well, it's hard to do when you've got, especially when knowing that you've been in this field of work how long?
Total?
Yep.
29.
29-ish years. And you've seen a lot of accidents. And you've seen a lot of trauma. And you've taken most of it home. And now you don't know who you are anymore. It happens all the time. I got 7,500 soldiers that I'm responsible for. I see it all the time. And they feel like they're losing themselves. And sometimes when you feel like you're losing yourself, your children start to distance themselves from you, right? And now you don't even feel like your children know you anymore. I see that all the time. Children backing away from their parent because their parent just is out there in la la land. And so now you don't have your kids anymore, you don't know who you are anymore, and you're riding on your motorcycle, and it's very easy to have a thought come into your mind. It'd be so easy to end it all. And it would be so easy to end it all on a motorcycle, wouldn't it? It can happen. It can happen that easy. All right. Now, let's see. You had, what do you got left? Family and children. So you're talking about family, extended family.
Sure.
What did you lose then?
Wife.
Lost your wife. How long y'all been married?
17.
17 years. So all of a sudden, your wife is not there anymore. And if it's all of a sudden, it's probably an accident, isn't it? It's an accident like what you deal with every single day. And I'm not going to ask you. I'm just going to put this thought out there. You guys have been on calls before, and you've had the thought, my gosh, if that had been my wife or my kids, that would kill me. Right? Those thoughts are there. Thank God that wasn't my wife or kids. You know what we were doing yesterday at Peachtree City Police Department? One of the responsibilities that one of our officers had, who was on the scene, he was responsible for calling his loved ones to say, I'm okay. Why? Because it gets out there fast on the social media, shooting in my hometown. My gosh, was that one of mine? You were telling me when you saw the fire in Fayetteville 23 years ago, you were living in Charlotte, right? And that was without internet. Social media is a frenzy now. So how many of us have had that thought at a scene? Thank God this wasn't one of my family members. We have it all the time. And now it is. And all the anger that you could have had for every scene when it wasn't your wife is at a threshold now that you can't imagine, right? Even now, we're going through this role play, but you can kind of catch a glimpse of it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you're angry, and again, your children, they start distancing themselves from you, right? Because you're angry all the time. Do you know any folks in fire service that are angry? That's a loaded question, isn't it? Everybody's looking at everybody. Yeah. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
No idea.
Yeah, and you... All right. So you have your health and you have your job. You lost your mother, right?
Not yet.
Mother. So that's tough, isn't it? And let's just think about this for a minute. Especially if it's an accident. For anybody that does this all day long for a living. Right? Yeah, I mean, mom's growing old. I like to think that mom will be around for a long time. She'll just go to sleep one night and she'll die peacefully in her bed. But to die a violent death in a car accident or a fire or a tragic accident like that, for any of our loved ones, because we do this every day for a living, you see how that might take us over the edge? I think it could. Very easily could. And then all of a sudden, anybody know what psychosomatic illness is? You know what it is, right? Just you dwell on things so much that you get sick. I got a family member right now. I told her 2 years ago, I said, you are going to be sick. You're going to have cancer. Something's going to happen because you can't let go. Sure enough, a year ago, she was diagnosed with lymphoma cancer. You know what her doctor said? It was stress-induced. Stress-induced cancer. Because she wouldn't let go. And so now your health is gone. If your health's gone, it's going to be kind of hard to do the job that you do. So now that's gone and you're medically retired. So you lost your mom, you lost your health, you lost your job. Same with you. You know, the kids are hanging out with your family now and they're talking about how mean you are all the time. You're angry, so your family is now distanced from you, so now you got nothing. And you know, it really wasn't your fault, and then you're gone, you split yourself wide open on a motorcycle, right? And it really, I mean, think about it. None of this was stuff that you created. You didn't go out there and rob a bank. You didn't intentionally do something to bring yourself down to that level, but it happened. So what have we got to do to get ourselves back up? We've got to be intentional in what we do. That's why I am so strongly telling you guys today, if we're going to change the culture, if we're going to change our community, we've got to change our culture in our own community, the EMS community. And the only way we can do that is by being intentional. Does that make sense? We've got to be intentional about the unintentional things that happen in our lives. And the things that we had no control over, we've got to take control over. Does that make sense? I know it sounds stupid, but all right, thanks guys. Give them a hand for coming up here and having the courage. Thank you, Tony. That's why we call this one oops away, because the bottom line is what might be an oops for you, like spilled milk, might put me over the edge. What do you mean, Ken? I deal with soldiers all the time going through divorce, for example. I had a soldier that was suicidal because his wife had filed for divorce. A few months later, I had another soldier. His wife was filing for divorce. So, you know, my thought is, well, he's probably suicidal too. So when I finally got around to talking to him and asked him, he said, heavens no, chaplain, I'm not suicidal. I've been waiting for this day. I'm having a party Friday night. You want to come to my party? He was having a divorce party. So one's having a pity party, wants to kill himself, and the other one's having a party because he's excited she finally signed the paper. So his oops was an oops for him, but for somebody else, it put him over the edge and caused him to be suicidal. That's why we call this one oops away. All right. I had the first today, and it had to be in fire services. It had to be a fireman that would say this. Right, Frank? I've taught 7,000 people. Nobody's ever said this. But what happens when it starts getting sucked down the drain? It means you lost your pee. That's what somebody said in the second class today. The P, psychology, right? I shouldn't say that because we're being recorded. One of you guys, I won't say who it was, second class, you lost your pee. Well, you start losing it psychologically first, right? Nobody else knows what's going on. Something's going on up here. You're the only one that knows it. Nobody else can see it. You're not putting out any signs. Nobody knows you're at risk. Psychologically, something's happening, and it's getting yucky. It's getting yucky. And then what happens? Things begin to change socially, right? We're not hanging out anymore. Well, you know, Franco, we don't have anybody in here named Franco, do we? Because we're going to use that name, except for Frank. not Franco. You know, Franco used to hang out with us. He used to go, you know, bowling with us, and now Franco's not doing anything. What's going on? Well, we don't know that psychologically he's going downhill. But we do know that he's not hanging out with us anymore. And his behavior, man, he's been short with people lately. Or he just don't give a rip anymore. He used to be so conscientious about his job, cleaning up his equipment. Now he just kind of throws stuff around. His behavior's changing. He quit working out. What did I tell you about my son? My son, the first question he asked me, Dad, you're not working out anymore, are you? He knew I loved to work out. The physical's changing. Nutritionally, environmentally, medically, and even spiritually. A spiritual person, I say this all the time when I'm teaching pastors, because the spiritual person says, well, yeah, but the spiritual, look at it. It's still out there in the calm water. It's not getting sucked down. Guess what, folks? If everything starts getting sucked down, everything gets sucked down, even the spiritual. So we can't say, well, it's me and God. I don't need anybody else. Because here's what I'm just going to say for my little Bible history quiz, okay? Moses had suicidal thoughts. Elijah had suicidal thoughts. Jeremiah was the weeping prophet, so he probably had suicidal thoughts. Jonah actually attempted suicide. And I would even say that in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul probably had suicidal thoughts because he said, I would much rather die. But for your sakes, I stay alive. That's basically what he said. If anybody wants to read that, I'll point the scripture out to you later. That's what he said. I'd much rather die. So don't assume that just because you're a spiritual person, you don't have suicidal thoughts. I tell pastors all the time, Pastor, do you realize that I don't care how big your congregation is, 1 out of 20 people in your congregation is going to have a suicidal thought this week. And it ain't because of your sermon. Come on, guys. Y'all got to laugh a little bit. It's 3:30. I need some feedback here. Or it may be because of your sermon. It may double it. Youth. Got to look at youth too. This is an area that is so vitally important because youth are killing themselves. And it's not just up to age 24 now. Now that number has risen to 34. People under the age of 34, the number 2 cause of death is, in fact, suicide. Y'all know what the number 1 cause is? It's car accidents. But how many of those are actually suicides? Like 85 the other day, right? How many of those are actually suicides? We'll never know. 5,400 teens every day attempt suicide. 1 in 4 high school freshmen and juniors with either a parent or sibling in the military have suicidal thoughts during the past year. 1 in 4. We got 12,000 veterans in this community. We still got a lot of active duty personnel that live here and travel. 1 in 4. 4 out of 5 teens who attempt suicide have given clear warning signs. So in other words, what's your name?
Jacob.
What?
Jacob.
Jacob? Hey, do you like iPhones?
Yeah.
Do you? Here, you can have mine. I don't need any more.
Cool.
All right, cool. Now, here's the thing. If cool, I know you're being funny, hopefully. Otherwise, we're going to have to talk it a little bit. Now, if cool is really our attitude, and man, thank you. I love that. That's great. It's very likely that within the next 24 to 48 hours, we're going to hear about a suicide that we could have stopped. Y'all do know that, right? Okay. 4 out of 5 teens will show signs, but 1 out of 5 won't show any signs. We had a death in our community a couple years ago. A young high school student took his life, and all the parents that were associated said, we didn't see any signs. If you had known the risk, you would have been intervening in that student's life. Signs are the things that we do. Say that with me. Signs are the things that we do. Let's say it one more time. I'm going to say it over and over. Signs are the things that we do. All right. So if signs are the things that we do, risk are the circumstances that we are in. So I might give my phone away, my car away. I might put stuff on the internet and say, man, life sucks. I'm out of here. Those are signs. The risk are the circumstances that I'm in. So let me explain it to you this way. Well, let's back up a second. Bullying. Does that put people at risk? Absolutely. Now, some students aren't going to look. This little girl looks a little despondent, doesn't she? She's got a, glazed over look. What's going on with this little girl? Other kids, they'll just suck it up. They won't tell mom. They don't want to embarrass themselves. Yeah. Other kids, they just end up taking their life, and we never see the signs. Hey, I want to say this very quickly too, though. Don't perpetuate this false notion that every person that's bullied is going to take their life. It's not true. If we do that, then we get these blinders on and we lose sight of other realities. Like, for example, the person that's doing the bullying may also be at risk of suicide. Y'all tracking with me on that one? It's not just the person that's bullied that might be at risk. The person who's doing the bullying is also possibly at risk. Why? Because where do bullies come from? They come from other bullies. So maybe it's something that's going on at home where that boy is being bullied by his father, and he's taking it to school. He's dishing out on his fellow students what his father's dishing out on him. Here's how we know the difference between signs and risk. What do you see? What do you see? See an ocean. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's great. Beautiful sky, beach to walk on, water to play in. Oh, but by the way, there is a sign there. And what does that sign say? Yeah, somebody said, rest in peace. No, that's rip current, not rest in peace. But watch this for a second. Now, what do you see? Oh, everything's fine, right? Everything's fine. There's no signs. Yeah, son, go ahead and play in the water. You're only 2 years old. You can't swim, but it's fine. There's no signs. Y'all following me? No, the risk is still there even though there are no signs. What are the risks for playing in the ocean? Jellyfish, stingray, man of war, hammerhead, sun exposure, overexposure, rip tide, rip current. Oh, and now Ebola or something. Then there's something going on in Mexico where you can get something. Yeah, there's all kind of stuff. You can get poked by a used syringe, all kind of stuff. Just because you don't see a sign doesn't mean there's not risk. That's what I want you to understand. Signs are the things that we do, and risk are the circumstances that we find ourselves in. So, a teenager who takes his life and nobody saw the signs. Everybody says, we didn't see any signs. But he didn't get into the college that he was planning to go to. And his girlfriend's going to that college anyway. Does that put him at risk? Yeah, maybe. Or maybe mom and dad are getting a divorce. He's having to move out of the school that he's been in all of his life in his junior year. And in his senior year, he's going to be starting in another school in another county with people that he doesn't know. Does that put him at risk? Yeah. Or maybe he was voted most likely to succeed. Does that put him at risk? Yeah, it does. People ask me all the time, why is that? Why would somebody voted most likely to succeed be at a higher risk of suicide?
That's a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure. Yep. Let me translate that for you in military terms. World War II, a captain won, or earned, you don't win, earned the Medal of Honor for his valor in World War II. Graduated from West Point. When he got back home, he couldn't hold down a job. Ended up working as a janitor at West Point. Then come home one weekend. Went looking for him. He had hung himself in the janitorial closet at West Point. Other Medal of Honor recipients have taken their lives as well. One of them left a note and said, earning the Medal of Honor was easy. Wearing the Medal of Honor has been too much of a challenge. That make sense? Yeah, I think it does. Wearing the Medal of Honor was too difficult. It was nothing to earn it. That's the way he felt. I could see how that could happen, because you're constantly in the spotlight. You're constantly, you have to show up at the Super Bowl. Y'all seen that before, haven't you? You have to show up at the World Series. You've got to be everywhere. You've got to be everything. You've got to be the hero all the time. That's too much of a burden to carry. This is a Buffalo bus driver by the name of Darnell Bartram. I love this guy because he did what anybody can be able to do and should be able to do. He's driving a school bus in Buffalo, New York. The camera's rolling. You can see every scene. You can pull this up on YouTube and watch it. There's a girl on the other side of a bridge. She's ready to jump. And the video shows a person ride by on a bike and look over at her and keep going. Somebody walks by reading the book, keeps going. Darnell pulls his bus over. Cars are honking at him. They're going past him. And Darnell saves this girl's life. That's pretty cool. He stepped out of his ordinary duties for the day, and he did what nobody else was willing to do. I used to get angry at all the people that didn't stop. You know, why didn't he stop? Look at that idiot that rode by on a bicycle and didn't help. I've come to have more compassion for those people now. The bottom line is they didn't know what to do. They didn't want to get involved, and that's the society that we live in today. That's one reason that the brotherhood is not as strong as it used to be. We don't want to get involved in people's lives. But the courageous person, the person who's willing to put it on the line, is the one who's going to save lives. Does that make sense? Is that just wishful thinking for me to think that way? I think that's the way it should be. If we're going to change our culture, change our community, we've got to be willing to put it on the line and act courageously when no one else is willing to act courageously. And that means sometimes you got to look your friend in the eye and say, are you thinking about suicide? That's what you got to do. So let's do that. Let's practice right now